The Rochester Hometown Christmas Parade has been a tradition for 62 years. A tradition of drawing the community closer. A tradition of making lasting memories. And a tradition of bringing out the best of the Rochester area. The 2013 Parade Grand Marshals are living examples of everything the parade stands for. John and Mary Modetz moved to Rochester 27 years ago for a number of reasons. But by far, the biggest was
the community. I felt like I've always said this about Rochester. I've always said that it's a Norman Rockwell painting. Every one of his aspects of that painting could be anywhere in Rochester, from the parks to the churches, to the community, to the main street. And we fell in love with it.
The Modetz quickly got involved in local events. They can be found every Memorial Day honoring our fallen soldiers at the ceremony following the Memorial Day Parade. A labor of love they have performed for the last 26 years. But the Christmas Parade was the first community event they got involved with. Shepherding local high school bands, building floats, or making sure Santa got where he needed to be.
But after we did the bands, we put the Santa float together. With Bob Lyons, we would pick him up, put him on the float, pick him up again, bring him back here, and he would meet with a lot of the kids here on our front steps. You know, the little ones would come in the lobby, and we put many kinds of floats together.
And then the kids always got a kick. They said, where's Santa going? I said, well, I got to put him in this minivan and take him back to his sleigh and reindeer.
And you don't work on such a storied event for so long without gathering some stories of your own.
But our first time we ever went to this Christmas parade was with Bill Potier. It was pouring rain. We had come to town about the funeral home, and he said, we need to go and experience this. So we went to the printing company on Main Street. There was his printing company. We're standing inside as the parade's going by us, and I will never forget that, because it's pouring rain, and after it was all over, he invited us to his house for grilled cheese sandwiches, which is from the bread came from the bakery that's on...
It's on Main Street.
And I think about that grilled cheese sandwich every once in a while when it's cold out. That we went to the parade, it was freezing cold and raining, and then Bill took us to his house for grilled cheese sandwiches.
They had a live camel in the parade. And I don't know how that came to be, but it was, you know, the parade ends at Walnut in front of our funeral home, ends at 3rd and comes back down. And I happened to be looking out the window, I said, here comes a camel. It was the most bizarre thing. Well, they stopped in front of my carport. There's some landscaping that was put in there, and he absolutely ate one of the big hues. In a matter of 5 minutes, I mean, he had it destroyed. And I remember going to Bourdain's in the springtime. I said, not going to believe it. I have to buy a couple of hues, and then, of course, our landscaper, Bob Gibbs, did all the work. And I said, you're never going to believe what destroyed that hue. He said, no, I wouldn't believe it. What is it? A camel. And they're thinking, I don't know what you drink when you get off, Mr. Modetz, but I said, no, a camel came down my street and ate one of my bushes.
John was dressed as a snowball coming down the street, because we had an exchange student with us that was supposed to do it, but he somehow found something better to do than be the snowball. So John volunteered to be the snowball, which was an experience.
You have to be a physically fit 16 or 18-year-old man to wear this costume. And in front of La Pumas, I thought, I'm going to be dying looking at Tony. But I did make it through that. I made it over here to Rojo on the side where they took it off me, and it was the longest day. That was last year. I did that for Rochester Rotary. You tried to kill me, you guys.
Well, despite the occasional assassination attempt, the Modetz have always found ways, big and small, to give back and add their own brushstrokes to that Norman Rockwell painting we call home.
We love what we do. You know, and this community has been very good to us, so our responsibility is to give back to our community in whatever way, you know, we're capable of doing. So that's why we participate in a lot of things. That's why we know that what we do is important, but we also know what the community does in return to us is tenfold.
So it's been fun to be not only on committees, but we're at a point right now in our life where we can maybe support a few things generously and maybe make it happen. And I'm glad that I couldn't think of a better place to be than in Rochester.